Welcome to German in New York, the podcast about the German-speaking community in New York City. We interview Germans, Austrians, and Swiss about their life and work in the Big Apple. For today's episode, we had the pleasure to interview Miriam. She's a pastor in New York and represents St. Paul's Church, a German Evangelical Lutheran Church in the heart of Chelsea, New York. Thank you very much for being here. How does your journey look like up to here? What brought you to New York, and how long have you been here now?
I'm very delighted to be here with you today. It is a pleasure to spend this afternoon with you while we have this lovely sunshine. And as you can see, I mean, if you look at the hustle and bustle here in New York, and we're just at a very hip location, I think this is what brought me to New York. It is such a fun, vibrant place, and I think it's a dream of many people to come here. And as a pastor, even though I'm a clergy, it is a place that draws me near very much so. And so we moved here almost 5 years ago. And the we is me, my husband, and 4 kids and 2 cats.
And 2 cats, they also...
Yes, we took them along because they're rescue cats, and we just needed to take them along. They're close to our hearts as well, and they're part of the family. So we moved here 5 years ago, and that was a challenge in itself. Moving here from Munich, where I was a senior pastor before, not just because it is an upheaval with all the stuff you bring along, it is a different society coming here. And I didn't really think about that because I thought that the structure and everything was very close to me, and I would know it because I was brought up bilingual with my stepdad being an American. I thought it would be no hassle at all. But he grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, which is much different to New York. So here you go. So we dove into the hustle and bustle of New York City, and I'm looking after a small congregation on 22nd and 8th Street. That's in Chelsea. It's a small neo-Gothic church. The congregation is quite old. It's from 1897, the building, and the congregation itself was funded in 1841. So that is interesting, and we're the only German-speaking congregation left in New York City.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, well, there is bilingual congregation, German, English-speaking congregations, but we're the only one that's solely German-speaking, which makes us different. We're a specialized congregation, as you would call it. We're trying to look after and cater for the needs of all German-speaking Protestant in the tri-state.
That's a lot of work, I could imagine.
Well, it is a challenge in itself, because if you look at the stretch of land you have to cover, that's quite something. I mean, I'm in the car quite a bit and using public transport while I'm in New York City, but the furthest north, we have somebody who's from south of Boston. We have people in Connecticut and New Jersey and Long Island. So I'm in the car and meeting a lot of people, and very interesting people as well. So that is great, which is very different to Germany, where in Munich I just took the bicycle. Yes, and the public transport. That was it.
I can imagine. That's so interesting. You mentioned that you think that the societies are very different. Are you able to describe that more? Are there words to say the German society is that way and the American church-wise is another way? Mm-hmm. Or is that too complicated? I could imagine there are so many facets in that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's 2 questions within your one question. You were asking about society and church structure.
Yeah.
So society in itself, I think we Germans are very structured.
So true.
Yes, there's so much structure, so much punctuality and different systems. And in the States, you're in many ways so much freer. There's so much you can negotiate. You may maybe be able to twist and turn something to accommodate both needs. And in Germany, if that's the set way, hey, you will not move an inch away from it.
Especially in churches, I could imagine that's probably even more like that, right? Like that in German church, you're probably not able to change anything. And over here, is it the same? Or
I mean, we are what you would call in Germany a free church, a Freikirche. So we are not part of an established church structure. So we're not part of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of North America or any other organization. So the church itself governs itself, which makes it more flexible than other congregations. And you wouldn't have a bishop, you have to report to a dean and things like that. So the congregation itself has the possibility to be freer in their decisions, but there's a but to it, which means if you need help, I mean, we do have the EKD, which means we represent the Protestant churches of Germany in the tri-state. So we do have a partner in Germany, but if we're in trouble here in the States, we're on our own. Like we had 2 years ago, a big issue with our heating system. And if we would be part of an organization, a structure, we could go there and ask for a grant. But here, we can't. So that was really, really bad because we had to fundraise, and I mean the building was it was utterly cold.
oh God,
you wouldn't believe it how cold it was. So that is difficult. On the other hand, yes, there's freedom, there's rules and regulations you do have to oblige to. There is things for non-for-profit organizations which we as well are looking after, and at the end, the utmost structure we have is the Word of God, and that's what we hold very dear. And in a nutshell, it's the golden rule: love your neighbor as yourself. So that's what we are looking after in our congregation. That's very, very important to us. Yeah.
Very interesting. So was St. Paul's Church always German, or was that a development over the years, or how did that become a German congregation?
It was a German congregation from its funding in 1841, and it was funded by German immigrants, and it had like 3 different big waves of German immigrants coming to New York City, and they found one of the homes they found was our church, but not just our church, but we're the only remaining church here. And our original church building was near Wall Street, and then we moved up twice until they built in 1897 the building we have in Chelsea.
That's still pretty old for the States, I feel. This is still very, very remarkable.
Yes, it is. It's an old building. It's a beautiful building. It needs a lot of upkeeping and a lot of attention. But it's if you enter the church, it has so much peacefulness. You just enter it and you can breathe through. And a lot of people who come say, well, this is a bit like little Germany. People speak German. You get German food. You hear German hymns. You might have like a concert, a choir coming and presenting something special. And a lot of people just say it's a respite place, a place you can just relax in this very colorful and very vibrant city. And I think that's a little gem in itself.
That's very, very cool. Very nice. Is service in St. Paul's Church different than service in Germany? Are there maybe some things that you have to adjust here to the people that visit the church?
Well, we do have a liturgy. A liturgy is a set order of a service. And this liturgy is from Bavaria with a few smaller alterations. And then mostly for the high holidays, that's a newer development within our congregation. We are opening up to a bilingual service, which I think is very important because we do have a number of families that speak both languages, and we want to cater to the need of all. And you will have English-speaking families coming as well, who maybe had their ancestors being German. So since about a year, the council is opening up towards having a more open concept. And then it just depends on the service you visit. There are services that are very traditional with the liturgy I just mentioned, and then there are other very modern services, like we have during June and during September. We have one service in White Plains, which is in upstate New York, and in Westchester, and the service is very modern. And the Galli Theater, New York, they came and presented a piece of the Holy Scripture, and then we have a bouncy castle and modern music. So,
That's
yes.
so cool. I want to go there now.
Yeah. And we have an Oktoberfest in September.
Oh, perfect. That's good promo here.
Yay.
And as far as I know, you're also able, let's say, as German living, as an expat living here in New York, to have, let's say, baptism here, which is catered to the German church, or which is part of the German church. Then you are able to marry here too.
Oh,
if I'm not
sure.
wrong. So you have all the options you have in Germany, right?
Definitely. It is a classical ministry. About 50% is very classical, with baptisms, with funeral, with weddings. We do have, and that's really exciting for me, and an enrichment. We do have some services where I am able to officiate interfaith marriages. I love that. I mean, this is such an honor.
This is so cool.
It is really, for me as a theologian, I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's such a humbling experience to be able to work together with other faith communities and to be there at the big day of these people, which is so nice because they trust me, and it is a lot of pressure as well. But sorry, I'm getting off topic here. So this is about 50% of my ministry here, very classical ministry, and then I have a special other 50%, which means I am sent as the representative of the the Protestant churches in Germany, which is called Evangelische Kirche Deutschland, EKD. And so I represent this top organization with the German consulate, at the UN, at different NGOs, which is really great. I mean, I'm learning so much and getting to know so many special people.
Yes, I believe that. Especially
really,
here
really
in
nice.
New York, I feel like every other person has a really interesting story. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
You also started a blog as well as a YouTube vlog about your experiences here in New York, right? And I just recently found out that you also have a book about your experiences here. Can you tell us more about that journey? How did you get into this whole online world, and how did you get to this point that you wanted to tell about your experience?
Well, I mean, I really love communicating and talking to people, talking with people, and I've been active on Twitter and Facebook and what have you for a really long time now. And the blog started off with a friend who asked me to just report about what we're experiencing. So that started off just before we moved house to the States. And it was a great way of venting the experiences we had, and communicating to other people about it as well. So that's a lot of fun. And when I blog, I just sit down and I write whatever I experience and the thoughts I have. And then this blog was put into a book, which was published 3 years ago now. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, and the vlog itself, I have a very great friend, and Miriam Holstein. She's from Bild am Sonntag, and she asked me via Twitter after she visited me in New York if I could give her an inspiration every Sunday. Just a small thought, something that might be helpful to her in her daily life. So I started to think what I could do, and I love experimenting. So I started this vlog. It's like a wee lab for me.
Yeah, very nice. Do you notice that people reach out to you through online media? Like, do they ask you for advice or want to talk to you through it more than maybe in person?
I say yes, people do contact me, but I wouldn't say they contact me more via social media than they do in real person. But social media helps them to break down barriers. Like I had one person, and I just met up with him a few days ago, and he said, well, I do think I know you. And it made me more approachable to him. Maybe if I walk on the street, I mean, I'm sitting in front of you wearing this clergy. A lot of people don't approach me because I'm dressed black, and people know that I'm a woman of the cloth. But I usually post something delightful, something inspiring, and that helps people to connect with me. So I do think, and I hope some of my colleagues are listening, that they will take up social media as well, because it is a huge chance. It's really something where we as church people can make ourselves known as normal people, because we are normal like everyone else.
That's true.
Even though we have internalized as faith and a certain ethical structure.
Yeah. It does make you more approachable. I would definitely, like, it makes you more human in some way.
Hey, we are.
Yeah, that's the thing we have to understand sometimes. Like, even clergies are human in some way.
Definitely.
What is next for you? Any plans for the future in the next months? What's the next big event, maybe?
The next big event, I think the most important bit, there's so many things going on. I could tell you on and on about exciting things happening in New York City. But the most exciting event we're planning right now is a conference with Uni Ruhr and with the General Consulate. So we're hoping to get together scientists and clergy and other representatives, maybe of the political sphere, and we would love to talk about society and faith and the role religion plays within those different spheres of our daily living. So that is really exciting.
Yes.
And we're hopefully heading for maybe December or January, February for this conference.
Okay.
So that'll be great.
Very, very interesting. That's cool.
Yes.
Can you describe New York in just 3 words?
Whew.
From your own experience? Is that possible?
It's diverse, exciting, and enriching.
Enriching.
Uh-huh.
Why that?
It opened up so many different doors. I mean, it's just been a great journey. And for me, the most humbling experience and enriching experience was getting to know other representatives of different faith communities in a very friendly way. So it was not just like I was able to visit a house of worship of a rabbi or of another faith community, but I made real interfaith friends. And
I think this is so important in our time right now.
Yes, and it's very dear to my heart, because as different religions, I do hope that we will draw together positively and set a sign of peace, because at the end, let's say, for example, the Golden Rule is imprinted into all the different faith communities. You will find it everywhere. And we should never let all the negativity overwhelm us. And I mean, they're taking away media and saying religious people, they're all extremists, and they want war, and they want to sow a grain of evilness in this world, but we are not. And I think this is what is driving me, and I experience this kind of hunger for peace and for an inclusive society with all my other colleagues as well.
Yeah, I think New York is a special place for that.
Yes.
This is so diverse and so colorful, and I think even more so in religion, more than we have it in Germany, I could imagine.
Oh, this would never be possible in Munich.
Oh, really? Never? Really?
No, I think there is still not a lot to be done, and we're really, in that respect, we're a step ahead. There are things possible I would never be able to do in Germany, but
Like what, for example, if you're able to tell it?
yeah, I mean, I started an initiative called Dove Power, Interfaith Gatherings for Peace. And that's in collaboration with now 9 different religious institutions or faith communities. And there are some faith communities I would very hardly be able to work together in Germany, because maybe the dialogue is not as far as it should be. But here I can overstep these boundaries, and that's beautiful.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
That's called Dove Initiative, you said?
Like dove.
Like a dove, like a taube?
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Do you host events with that, or is it an organization where you just work together with the other faiths? Like, what exactly are you doing there?
Well, we had 2 events at our church last year in May and November. And then I planted that seed that it would be nice if we could go from one house of worship to the next. Because this way we are able to break down barriers. We get to know each other. And that happened now in May. We had one that was hosted by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And there were some people there that have never been in such a house of worship. And just this small snippet for you, a new partner joined us. This lovely congregation joined us, which is a LGBTQ plus synagogue. Their name is Congregation Beit Simchat Torah. And so they joined Dove Power and came to this temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which usually would never happen. So that was, theologically speaking, groundwork we did right there. And there was so much reconciliation and peace.
Yes, this is so
within
important. This is so cool.
Yes, so we're heading and planning for the next one in November. And we're going to be hosted by Episcopal Church on 16th and 2nd Street. So that'll be really nice as well.
Are churchgoers able to attend those meetings, those services?
Interfaith
yes.
Meetings? Yes, definitely. Everyone's invited, and even if you are not a person of faith, and we do have people who are non-religious, or we have atheists as well, yes, please do come, because that's why we chose the title Dove Power Interfaith Gatherings for Peace, which means it's open to all peace seekers.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'd like to emphasize that, and it's a growing initiative. I'm so proud. It was born in St. Paul's, but it's now getting wings and it's growing.
I love this. I think this is so important to be educated about other faiths, and I always wanted to see how other churches, how other religions look like, but I never wanted to be a tourist and just go there and look at the places and not understand what they actually do. So this is the right thing to actually educate yourself.
Definitely. If you're curious, if you want to learn, and you'd like to be in a positive community, that's the place to go. And it's one evening, 2 hours, and some doors will open you will never have opened
Yes.
otherwise.
Absolutely. So interesting. So, what is your advice to new New Yorkers from Germany, Austria, or Switzerland from a business or work perspective, as well as regarding life here in New York?
When you move here, I think you should be curious. You should be open as much as possible. I mean, that's a very important thing to look around and to just take it all in. I think that's great. And don't ever seek for the structures you might have in one of these 3 countries you just mentioned. Just let go of the structures.
Yes, this is so true. I think this is very deep in us.
Yes, it's implanted in us when we're born.
Yes, I feel that same way.
And so that's an advice. And then a very practical one, take Taschentücher.
They don't have them here, just so you know. That's very true.
Yes.
I know people who actually really ask people in Germany to send them or to import them when they come to visit, because this is such a practical thing which only we could think of, we Germans could think of, but it makes so much sense.
It does. I had once a choir that visited me and they asked what they could bring. So I said, I need Taschentücher. I need some German Kleenex. Yes. And so every choir member in their suitcase had a whole pack.
Oh,
so I had a real stack of Taschentücher.
That's amazing. It's really small things, but it's really important.
Definitely.
So talking about interfaith service or even weddings, did you have any big surprises or any big things you did in ministry?
Yes, I was able to accompany this lovely couple. Hey, Svetlana and Sandro, if you're hearing that, that goes out to you. They're a very nice couple, and he's Christian, and she is Orthodox Jew. And so I was asked if I could officiate their wedding, which is a real honor. And if you would meet them, they're this great couple. If you just see them and the chemistry, it was just there, and I could feel it. That's the way the Holy Spirit moves. And so they asked me to officiate together with a rabbi. And we met a few times, and we wove together different traditions, the Christian traditions and the Jewish traditions. And I even was invited to go into the chuppah, which I was never in Germany. This is something
holy, right?
Yes, it really is. And you must understand, with our German history, and my German church has played an awful part in Nazi time as well. So this is something that's a really, really big honor. And it evoked a lot of healing within myself as well. So I was standing next to the rabbi, and we agreed that I would count how often the bride goes around the groom, which is a very important liturgical element. And it needs to be at the right number, because this is a sign of luck and of blessing. So I was asked to count, and I had my fingers in front of my torso, just to give the lovely bride the right count of her actions. And as I was counting and showing her the fingers, this photographer, of which I didn't know, he just came over my shoulder, and I really was very surprised about it, and I shrugged, and here went my numbers, but I got them back quickly, so everything's all right. But oh man, I was scared for a moment. And he should have told me before that. But that's, in ministry, things happen that are really something else. I mean, you have grooms forgetting their rings. You have, I even had I had a groom in Scotland where I was in ministry as well. And he forgot the name of his bride.
Oh my God. This is the worst I could ever imagine.
Hey, oh, that was something else. I mean, I stood there for a moment, and the whole church was silent. And I just stood there, and I tried not to laugh. And I just whispered, and the whole congregation heard it, and they cracked up laughing.
I hope she wasn't too offended or too sad about it.
No, and she knew he was just
Yeah.
nervous and everything was all right. So you do experience a lot of crazy things in ministry. You want to have another shot?
Yes, of course.
So this is maybe not a so funny occasion, but at the end it was funny. It was a funeral, and I was in Orkney, Scotland, and a minister in an island community, and there was this gentleman who was laid to rest, and I had really the best funeral director ever. John, if you're hearing that, please, that one goes out to you. And so it was John Course, an assistant, the son of the deceased, the daughter-in-law, and the grandson, and me. And I was heavily pregnant with my fourth child.
Oh, okay.
And in Scotland, the casket is laid to rest by pallbearers. So I said the blessing, and then I gave them the sign that they should lower the casket. And because it always rains there a lot, and the earth is very sandy, it gave away. So the whole thing, you know, the son-in-law, he fell into. Yes, he did. He fell into the hole with the casket on top. At me going after him.
As a pregnant, oh my God.
So we pulled him out, and we got back to business, and afterwards he just looked at, we all had a laugh. I must admit, we had a laugh in the funeral. And then he looked at me and said, that was just up his street, because he was always very witty. So he really loved that funeral.
That is funny. It's weird to say a funeral is funny, but that is funny.
Oh, man, yeah.
It's
Definitely.
amazing. So many cool stories. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Miriam for her delightful interview. For those of you who would like to know more about Miriam, can visit her website, germanpastornyc.wordpress.com, or the website of St. Paul's Church, stpaulny.org. You can also follow Miriam on social media. We will insert all her links and handles, as well as a link to her book in the description below. This is our last episode for now. After a summer break, we will be back with new interviews in the fall. Thank you everyone for tuning in.